Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to tell you the story of my scoliosis surgery. But before we get started, I just want to remind you that my merch is now available, my new one. Look at it. So obviously it goes off. I'm worried I'm going to keep hitting those plants, but anyway. If you follow me for my body acceptance related stuff, this one is for you. Or if you just want to be a walking message, helping to remind other people that they shouldn't compare themselves to people they see on social media. This is the front and this is the back. So we got these in t-shirts, sweaters, and hoodies. They go from a small to a 5XL, and there is worldwide shipping, so yes. Okay, now going into the story. Obviously, I have to give out a disclaimer before I start, just purely because everybody is different. This is my story. This happened when I was 13. Because of a lot of instances and external factors of the story, I had quite a negative experience overall, but we'll get into that and you'll see why I say that and why at the end of the day I don't regret it at all. So let's go on and start with that. Also, by the way, because this did happen 15 years ago, I've probably created false memories or memories that I'm remembering wrong. So eventually my mom will watch this, I'm sure, and correct me if I said anything wrong, which I will then correct in the comments below. But I will be explaining everything as well as I can remember it. This all started when I was 13. It kind of happened out of nowhere. So basically I was sitting by the pool and my mom noticed that my spine was quite curved, and once we went back home, she told me to do the bending over test to see if my back was humped, and I had, like, once I was bent over, like, this is my back, I had a bump that was one side of my torso was up like this and the other side was down, so she could instantly see that, yes, I definitely have scoliosis. So within, I can't remember how long the span of time was, but then eventually we went to a doctor, did the x-rays, and this is what I saw. Yeah, pretty intense. I don't remember the exact degrees. I think it was like 60 and 60, but the top one was like 67 or something. It was between 60 and 68, both ends, the bottom one and the top curve. I remember the second that the doctor was like, oh, you need surgery, blah, blah, blah. My mind kind of went like blank, like it does in movies and stuff, you know, when you're like watching a movie and then it's just like the ringing in the ears. I was like, oh, this is so dramatic. But I think I was also trying to be in that main character moment vibe, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening to me. 13-year-old, so dramatic. Okay, to be fair, it was dramatic and scary and I was terrified, but you know how like your mind just emphasizes things sometimes. So what the doctors had said is I need surgery as soon as possible before this curvature of my spine punctures my lung and kills me. What? I didn't even know I had scoliosis like a week prior to this, so now I'm sitting here being told I might die. Dramatic. So then we thought, let's go get a second opinion, just purely because it went from 0 to 100 all of a sudden, like in the span of like, oh, you have scoliosis, you need surgery as soon as possible. So anyway, we go to the second doctor, same basic thing. They're just like, you should probably get surgery as soon as possible. I don't remember the name of my doctor, but I remember I have a photo of it, so I will insert the photo here his name here. Yeah, I had my surgery done in Singapore. I got it done in NUH, National University Hospital of Singapore. This was in 2009. At the end of 2009 is when I had the surgery. I remember it was like December or something. Once again, had all my scans done. I remember they had to take an x-ray and an MRI. I remember the MRI I went into was super fun. Back in this day, we didn't have like social media to like be like, oh, I've been in an MRI, let me share my experiences. So I didn't know much about MRIs. I just saw it was a little tube, you go in, I had no preconceptions of it being like scary or claustrophobic like a lot of people have said, which actually helped me out a lot because I just went in there and I was just relaxing. I had a nap. I was listening because like obviously while it's scanning you, it does these like little beeps, and then it just kind of sounded like a really nice like calming like techno beat. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna just sleep to this. Obviously didn't move, but I was just like meditative state instantly, just napping. The day of the surgery, I was exhausted. It was like 6-7 a.m. You know, these things have to start early. I remember I got washed with like that antibacterial soap wash thing. I think I had a nurse or my mom in the shower washing me. I don't remember. I had someone washing me just to make sure I was like thorough with it, because I think they just didn't trust a 13-year-old to do a good enough job, which fair enough. I definitely would not have done a good enough job at that age, especially because it's like the antiseptic soap that they need to use for prior to surgery. So that's quite a serious situation. Anyway, I remember I was exhausted. I couldn't eat anything because obviously if you eat something before surgery and if you, for whatever reason, start regurgitating it up, you're gonna choke and die during surgery because you can't breathe and you're gonna choke on your vomit. So I remember I was hungry, I was really cold because hospitals are just freezing cold. And I was just like so sleepy waiting in like the waiting area of the surgery place. And I was just chilling there. I was scared, but I was trying to keep my cool. From what I remember, I think I might have cried. I think I probably cried. I cry all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if I cried. Eventually, I was getting wheeled in, and you know, me being the dramatic Leo bitch that I am, because like the lights kept going, like, you know, like in hospitals where they have like those bars of lights, and then because they were wheeling me, I just like saw them go like this. And I remember those like ER videos like Grey's Anatomy and stuff like that, where they're like wheeling the patient and the patient is like going in and out of consciousness and they can see like the lights. So I was just like closing my eyes and opening them like that. I was fully conscious at this point. They hadn't given me anything, so I was just being like dramatic and like playing a little game with myself because I was bored and I'm dramatic. So I don't remember if it was the OR or if it was like a prior room to that where they just kind of put you under the anesthetic. The anesthetic? No, it's the one that makes you sleep fully. Well, that thing. I remember when they put the oxygen mask over, and then I remember the nurse being over my head saying, oh, we're just gonna count down. And then they put, I think it was a tube in my hand, or was it in my vein? I think it was in my vein. Either way, I could feel like the whatever they put in just come up, and once it hit here, I was knocked out. I was just like, sleepy. I think I went up, I was like 10, 9, 8, and then the second it hit here, I was out. So I remember that was weird. My mom was with me until to the point that like she could be with me, which was right before I got wheeled in for the anesthetics. You know what I mean, okay? Don't worry about it. So yeah, my mom's also quite an emotional person. I'm not laughing at her because I would have definitely done the same exact thing and cried. So basically she just like broke down and started sobbing. Also because I was like the first one in my family that's had like a major big surgery, and nobody else had really had like major surgery prior to this. And because I guess this is like one of like the most major surgeries that a lot of like adolescents go through, so that's why like it was also like kind of like a really big deal as well. So she had just like broken down crying, and apparently the surgeon, the doctor, like saw her and was like, don't worry, mom, we got this. Like, I will take care of your baby. I got this. Like, it's gonna be in and out and done and it'll be fine. It was not in and out because it was 8 hours. It was an 8-hour surgery, girl. Like, what? Oh my God. If you want to see any examples of how intense this surgery is, you can search scoliosis surgery on YouTube and you'll see the videos of like the raw meat carcass person. Like, it makes me feel weird that like my body was such a like little carcass piece that they were just like jamming like this and just like straightening the fuck out of me. Still queer though. My phone ran out of space, so now I'm just on my iPad. Okay, where was I? I don't remember much after the surgery. Obviously, I was quite loopy. There is a video of me singing Poker Face. I don't have it, but I was just right out of the surgery and I just started singing Poker Face apparently. And apparently when my mom was trying to feed me, I'm so happy I said this in Finnish because I don't know what compelled me to say this. When she was trying to feed me like the hospital food, I was like, this is horror food. I don't want to eat this. And I was like, girl, what is wrong with you? Just eat. Like, you disrespectful little brat. But yeah, obviously, I don't know. I was loopy. I was out of it. I had no like recollection of what I was saying or why I was saying things, why I was singing Poker Face, but valid, honestly, slay. So after the surgery, I had grown like 5 centimeters because obviously that straightened out my spine, which was great for me because I was always really insecure about how short I was or how short I am. I'm no longer insecure about it, but as a kid I was like, oh, I just want to be tall. I just don't want to be made fun of because I'm so short. I think I was 140 centimeters, and then when I came out I was 146 centimeters. I remember my friends came to visit me, and my one friend, she was like a tiny bit taller than me, and we'd always talk about how short we are, and like she's like, no, it's so unfair that you're gonna like grow because of this surgery. And yeah, she came to visit. Here's a photo of us. Also, it was so weird like being taller and like just, even though it's like just a tiny bit, you're just kind of like, whoa. And also, obviously, you're in pain, you don't know how to walk. I had to relearn how to walk, I had to relearn how to sit. I had to sit in a chair for like, I think it was like 10 minutes per day as like part of the healing process. That was so uncomfortable for whatever reason. It just didn't feel good. I hated it. Yeah, walking up the stairs. That was so hard and so painful. I hated it. Yeah, it was really bad. I was in a lot of pain. I think I was there for, I don't remember how many days I was there for. I want to say like maybe like 10 days. I'll ask my mom, but whatever she says, the clarification is somewhere here. But I think it was like 10 days, but I might be over exaggerating because I was very young and I don't remember. I had a morphine pump and I could press it whenever I was in pain, but it would only administer like a certain amount in the dosages. And then you'd have to wait a certain amount of time before you could get another dosage of morphine. So apparently I was just sitting there pressing it. So that was like my little physical rehabilitation. I don't know. So eventually when it was time for me to go back to my home and hotel, because I was at a hotel at that point, I couldn't sit up in a taxi, and because of all the bumps, it was just still too raw for me to sit in like a car or a taxi. So they had like an ambulance escort me back to the hotel, which was really funny. Here's a picture of me in the ambulance being like, woo, I'm so cool for being in an ambulance. Very unique experience. I thought it was fun. Again, I was still in so much pain at that point. I remember the way that they put me on the ambulance chair into the lift and then put me onto the bed. I remember I was just like in the bed, like, how am I meant to survive like this? Like, this is my new life now. It was very just like jarring and overwhelming at first. And I think a lot of it I had like kind of like, because there's nothing you can really do other than just kind of go with the flow and take it day by day and not think too ahead of time to be like overwhelming yourself with the fact like, this is your new life. You can't do all these things now for like forever, which I will get into. And you can't like, I don't know. It was just one of those moments where I was just like, okay, take it day by day. Okay, this is kind of a TMI thing, but I'm including it because it's just part of the story. I remember the first time I had to poop. It was one of the most excruciating pains I have ever felt in my life. I was sitting on the toilet and crying and holding my mom because it just hurt so bad. Oh, and I couldn't sit down properly. Like, I couldn't figure out how far things were while sitting down, if that makes sense. So I would need my mom to like hold me whenever I was like sitting down on something because I didn't want to plonk my ass onto the seat or whatever seat and then, you know, like injure myself really badly. I used to have pictures of my scar on my iPod video when it was healing, but I've lost all those photos, so the only scar photos I have are healed ones, so I will add a few here. A few days after I got back to the hotel and I was healing okay, just relaxing, resting, I all of a sudden, everything I ate, everything I drank, I would throw up instantly. I couldn't hold anything down, so like literally like a sip of water, after 20 minutes I'd throw up. So then that's when I was like, okay, cool, my mom has to call back the hospital and call the doctor and be like, hey, your girlie's not holding down anything, what do we do? So I had to go back in, and I had a blood vessel that was covering my small or large intestine, one of my intestines, so that was preventing any food or any water from staying down, and I just kept throwing up. There is a whole medical term for it that I don't remember what it is, but if there's any doctors, you can just comment below and feel cool for knowing the words, because I don't. When I was re-hospitalized, and you know how you have the button to call the nurses and press it in cases of emergency or if you need assistance? Obviously, because I was quite like immobile, I couldn't just get up and go to the bathroom. Oh yeah, that was another thing. I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom. I would have to either, like back when I was in the hospital, I had all these like IV drips connected to me, so obviously I needed help going to the bathroom. I needed someone to help me sit down because I couldn't sit down myself. So yeah, literally everything I had to do with someone attending me. And I remember my first shower after the surgery as well. I couldn't lift my arms up to take off my hospital gown. So the nurses had to help me with that. And I don't remember if it was the nurses who were helping me shower or if it was my mom who was helping me shower, if it was both. But either way, yeah, anyway, I needed help for just regular everyday things constantly. Oh yeah, my story. That's what I was saying. Okay, back to my funny story. So yes, obviously you have those buttons that you call the nurses whenever you need assistance or something like that. So I felt like I was gonna throw up. I could just like feel like the saliva glands just being like, okay, you're gonna throw up now. But for whatever reason, I felt like I'd bothered them enough that day, and I was alone in the hospital room. I think my mom went out to get lunch or something, or just food for herself, and because I wasn't allowed to eat anything. So I was alone in the room, and I just didn't want to annoy the nurses, so I threw up all over myself, which in hindsight is so stupid because now they have to do more work by helping me undress and get in the shower to clean me up. I'm sorry. You live and you learn. Me when I try to do nice things for other people, but it ends up making it worse. And once they figured out what was wrong with me, that my blood vessel was over my intestine, they were like, we need to put one of those tubes from your nose to your stomach. And because that had been done to me before the surgery or after the surgery, and it just felt so disgusting, I medically refused it. And obviously if you medically refuse something, you can't force someone, they can't like pin me down and do it, because I think they asked for my mom's consent to do it, and then she was like, no, don't do it, because they had alternatives of things they could do. So basically, because I refused that and I had a panic attack, that was my first ever panic attack. So scary. So yeah, they gave me, I think it was like two options. Yeah, they were like, we either get this tube down and like feed me that way so that I don't die, or they just feed me liquids for, I think it was a week or so, and then hope that it goes away by itself. And if it doesn't go away by itself, I need surgery again. I don't know, stupid me was like, yeah, just feed me, and if I don't need surgery, and if it doesn't go away, well, I'll do surgery again to remove the blood vessel over my small intestine. Luckily for me though, it went away with just liquids. I was quite worried because, well, I wasn't worried at the time, but like it was quite jarring because I have always been quite like a small, thin child. Like I just wouldn't put on weight as a child or as a teenager until I was about like 16, 17. And obviously by this point of throwing up and only being fed liquids, going through surgery, not being able to move, not really being able to eat, I'd lost so much weight. So I was just, yeah, I was like bloated constantly, and just super skinny, but then my stomach was like super bloated and just boom, which was like a massive thing for my insecurities as well. It just, yeah, I had lots of body dysmorphia after the surgery, and yeah, this is going now into further in the healing. Once I dealt with the whole complication of it going away on its own, of the intestine being covered by that blood vessel, that was fine. So through the healing process, they had to take an x-ray, I think it was a week after the surgery, and then another like month after the surgery, and then I had to have like routine x-rays quite frequently just to make sure that my scoliosis wasn't progressing or getting worse, or not everything was like all lined up and straight and all good. This is an after photo of what it looked like after the surgery. I haven't had any complications with x-rays. I luckily haven't had any loose screws. I luckily haven't had any like further scoliosis developing now that it's been 15 years later. I remember they were like, 10 years after the surgery, you'll have to get another x-ray. But I remember being 13 and being like, whoa, I'm gonna be 23. I'm gonna be so old, I'll have kids by then. Girl, the fucks. But yeah, I remember being like, oh, I'm gonna be an adult at 23, like 10 years from now when I have to get my x-ray. My life's gonna be so different. No. But yeah, I haven't had a x-ray in like, I think 3 years now, so yeah. But we all good. I don't feel any worse, but yeah, you do have to do routine x-rays. I think it was 1 year after, and then 3 years after, and then 5 years, and then it was like 10 years or something. But yeah, or if you're obviously in pain or whatever. I had to do mental health evaluations after the surgery. I think that we did it for like up to 6 months, or a year after the surgery. It was like 1 month in, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, I think. I might be wrong. But I remember it would be like, on a scale of 1 to 10, like how attractive do I feel, the same attractiveness level as I did prior to the surgery? Is my mental health the same as it was prior to the surgery? And I ended up lying on a lot of those. Questions. I was actually beginning to feel quite depressed, and I just lied because I didn't want to be involuntarily hospitalized, because I was feeling quite and stuff, but like not like heavily. Like it was just like a thing that came in my mind and like went. But I think all the differences in my appearance really just affected me, because obviously I was 13 years old and I didn't know any better, and societally you start watching like all these like teenage shows. I was a Tumblr girly, so I went through the 2010 Tumblr era, so obviously that was insane for my mental health just alone by itself, but then having this surgery on top of it just made that so much worse. And I have actually found old diary entries where I've wrote about my body insecurities, and it just made me cry because I was so sad and had such low self-esteem. I drew this like girl with like this like hourglass figure, and I was like, oh, I just wish I had like boobs, I just wish I had a waist, I wish I never had the surgery. So then I would still, because of obviously the scoliosis, I had curves on one side of my body but had straightness on the other side. So I just wanted to have like that one little waist curve on one side of my body. And yeah, it was just really heartbreaking to see that as a 13-year-old. I would have rather have died than look the way that I do now, or look the way that I did after surgery, which is just heartbreaking. And I think that plays a massive role into what I do today as a full-time job, an online content creator, talking about body acceptance and body positivity and mental health and all of that, and why I wanted to go into psychology, because suffering from mental health issues and body dysmorphia and all these things from such a young age really affects you developmentally and just puts you on a different path through life, and wanting to help others so that they'll never feel the way that you did when you were younger. And yeah, I think because of that, I just have suffered with depression since I was 13. I finally feel like I'm not depressed. I think my depression has gone away now that I've started moving into my late 20s. I think only in the last year my depression has gone away, which is really nice to feel. I'm finally weaning off my antidepressants, but that's another story for another time. In hindsight, I should have not have lied on those test things because I would have been able to get therapy sooner, which would have been helpful, but hindsight is a wonderful thing that we have that we don't have in the moment. Anyway, it's fine because I shortly went to therapy after that and have been in and out of therapy since I was, I think, 14 or 15. And yeah, I've dealt with a lot of my mental health issues, and I feel like now I feel like I'm in a stable position in life and feel very good and happy generally. So yes, anyway. Yeah, so that was like my mental health complications after the surgery. I think, yeah, overall, as I said, now I'm very thankful that I did have the surgery, because the other side of it would be I would be dead. I think the reason why I felt so strongly negative about it is because within the span of like 6 to 9 months or however long it was from finding out I had scoliosis to now having like a completely different body from surgery and having a straight spine and not being able to do things, which I will get into in a bit. I think that's why I had such a negative outlook on life and the body I had, because I didn't have to deal with all the other issues and complications that people do when they have scoliosis, and it's detected earlier on and they get to then wear back braces and have to do yoga and all of these other things, because I just went from 0 to 100 real quick. It was like, boom, you have scoliosis, boom, you need surgery. Instead of like, oh, we've noticed you have started developing scoliosis. Here, wear a back brace. And then feeling that annoyance of that, to then eventually maybe getting surgery one day if it's deemed necessary. Whereas I just went boom, straight line instead of like zigzagging through a whole process. So I think my frustration levels weren't there. And also because I hadn't felt any pain from my scoliosis prior to getting surgery, but because there was a massive risk of it puncturing my lung, that's when it was kind of like, okay, you need to go now. Yeah, so I basically didn't have to suffer as much as other people did prior to getting surgery. So that's why I have quite a negative outlook on it. And also because I was so young when I had the surgery, so I couldn't really weigh out my options, because that frontal lobe wasn't developed enough to make smart, critical thinking, like skills of viewing this whole situation, if that makes sense. So yeah, at the end of the day, I don't regret it at all. And now I can see it in like a lot more of a holistic view, rather than being like, oh, why did this happen to me? Life sucks, you know, like as you would as a teen. So what can I do now? I can't do any contact sports. Like sometimes I'll like just dribble like a basketball or like do something if there is like, or like kick a soccer ball by myself. But yeah, I can't do any contact sports where someone might hit my back, a ball might hit my back, or just things like that. I have gone ice skating and rollerblading since my surgery, but very carefully, obviously, because if I fall from standing up straight to my ass, it hurts so bad. Luckily, I haven't had many falls. I haven't had many instances where things have hit my back, but I have had parts where it's like, ow, that really hurts. Yeah, I just avoid like being on trampolines, anything that is like super bouncy. Roller coasters, I try to avoid them now as well. Before I didn't, but now just because of like also my mentality around roller coasters, I'm more afraid of them now than I was when I was like 15, which I'd just be like, I don't care, I'm gonna go on them. And speedboats and things, they don't really hurt, but it's kind of like I'm more aware of like trying to stay still. I have been told that I wasn't allowed to lift heavy weights, but if you've been following me for a long time, you know that I love working out and I do a lot of weightlifting. But yeah, I don't do anything past, I think, because like with deadlifts, most people can deadlift like 60, 70, 80, 90, 120, 30, 40, 50,000. No, like people can lift a lot heavier weights, but the max that I have done ever, I think, was 60 kgs or 50 kgs. But that's deadlifting. Other than that, I don't do any other like heavy weightlifting. I think I max out about 20 because I just don't want to cause any complications. I don't want to injure myself and have to go through the process of having surgery again, or like having a screw be loose. So I'm very careful with all the activities, and I kind of like weigh out the pros and cons of something if I want to do it, but I know I shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? Numb spots. that was another thing, an complication that I've had after surgery over the last like years. It's just slowly gotten worse. I have had some numb spots here and there, and as I've gotten older, I've just started noticing more and more and more numb spots. I don't know if they keep developing as you age, but yeah, because of my spinal surgery, obviously some nerves and stuff get squished or bumped or something, so I have a lot of numb spots. A lot of the time when I get tattooed now, I realize I have lots of numb spots. When I was getting my chrysanthemum on my knee here, I realized I had a numb spot. I have a numb spot on the side where I have my massive snake, so it did help out for that. And obviously when I was getting my back tattooed, I had a lot of numb spots that I was worried would affect my back tattoo and getting my tattoo, but they ended up being a massive saving grace while I was getting tattooed, because it was numb and it felt like relief, because I couldn't feel it as much as I did numb on the non-numb spots. Yes. Another issue that I just remembered that I had after surgery was, obviously because they had to do stitches, I had stitches at the top of my spine all the way down, but the stitches at the top bit were taken out too early, so that caused an infection, and for I think it was like 2 weeks we'd have to like put this cream, this antiseptic cream on it, anti-infection cream on it, and then put this like massive plaster over it. But because my spine was so sensitive, and because I do have like small tiny hairs on my like peach fuzz on my spine and on my back, as most people do, it would always like rip that hair off, and it was just the most painful thing. And I just remember crying so much, and my mom felt so bad because she was obviously the one removing it, because I can't reach up there, so she had to do that. Yeah, it was just very like daunting. Like I was just kind of like, when is this gonna be over? I just don't want any more complications and stuff. But yeah, other than that, learning how to re-walk again, going up the stairs, going downstairs, showering, those were I think my main like least favorite things that I had to relearn how to do. Now I also can't bend my spine at all. It's quite like you can see, I always look like I sit straight because I can pretend to slouch. This is me pretending to slouch. This is me just sitting. But yeah, as you can see, like no bendage. She is just straight. So yeah, that's a weird thing that I also had to get used to. But yeah, I think the most annoying bits are like when, for example, if I'm flying and I've dropped something down there and I need to like bend down, I can't, because most people can like bend their backs to do that and then just kind of crouch and get it. I have to be like swinging my whole body around to try and like lean over and get it. But yeah, it's a mess. It's little annoyances like that that still affect me, but other than that, like nothing too intense. But yeah, that is my whole story, recovery and complications and what I can't do now and all of that, and how it affects me. It doesn't really affect me on a day-to-day basis, but like I have had comments where people say that I'm like arching my back, because obviously I post on Instagram about my body a lot, and people like troll and comment like, oh, she's arching her back out. I'm like, girl, I can't arch my back. It just is like that. But then because the spine naturally has like a bit of like curve to it this way, it looks like my butt is like bonking out, and I'm just like pushing it out, but I'm not, because I can't. So yeah, it's just little things like that, but I mean, for the average person, they're not posting their body online every day, so. And obviously, like I'm a person who loves working out, so with some workouts, like I can't do sit-ups, so I'll do different things like jackknives, or yeah, that's the only example I can think of right now, or like leg raises and stuff like that. You just kind of have to adjust when you have I guess a disability or something that limits your movement or is different to the average like able-bodied person. I think the whole process of recovering took me about fully like 2 years to fully get used to my new body and my mobility and how my spine feels. I can't feel my titanium in my spine unless I think about it, and then it becomes very like, ugh. I don't want to think about it. I'm like, ugh. It's gross, but in my head it's like gross. I'm like, ew, there's something in me, I think. And also it took me about I guess like 14 years to accept my new appearance of my body. I know that sounds really drastic and dramatic, but I'm just saying this was my experience. And I think also because societally people are a lot harsher on the appearance of women's bodies, especially back in the 90s and 2000s, which is when I grew up. So that's a lot of like societally ingrained ideals that I had to like get out of my head. So that's why it also took so long. And also, I guess trolling comments and comments I get on the daily about my body, they do affect me at some point, so it just took a lot more time to get out. But also at the same time, it's like I'm posting body acceptance stuff all the time and working on my body acceptance almost daily, so it has helped. So who knows, it's a different process for everyone. It's a lifelong journey, and I will still always have my bad days and my good days. But yes, yeah, I think that's everything that I can think of now. Please leave a comment down below if you have any other questions or yeah, comments or anything. I can only really give advice on my experience and based on my feelings and experience. This is not at all medical advice. Take these things with a pinch of salt because this was my experience in 2009. Medically, things have advanced now, I'm sure. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like this kind of content. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that bell icon to be notified every time I post. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.